the edge of this, which is fine. Try to keep it to like a 1/4 inch. So if you're like cutting off the plotter and you're laying it on your peel board, don't cut the film where it's like 2 inches wider all the way around, because you're just kind of making it life harder for yourself. I want to shrink as much of this tin as I can on this window. So if I have an extra 2 inches of film all the way around and I have to have it this high and over here, and it's so much more stuff that's not getting on the window because I have this way too much material all the way around. So cut it tight, don't cut it to nothing, but leave like a 1/4 inch extra. My goal is to get as much on there as I can. So I'm going to butt the tall side of the door, which is usually the back side on the front doors here. I'm going to butt it up to the edge of the rubber. I'm going to butt it up to the rubber here. No shrinking's happening on this edge. I will shrink the bottom edge here. I want to keep a little bit of a gap across the bottom so that my heat gun isn't like touching the rubber. I also don't want to slide this all the way down to the rubber because water keeps getting sucked up. Every time I push it down, it just pulls more water up inside there. I want to have a little bit of a gap across the bottom edge. Bring this over here, and right around here. Okay, so the proper way to set this up now, I only want to shrink it one time out the bottom. I don't want to have to lift it up and shrink the top or anything like that. So I'm going to set this thing nice and tight, similar to how we made things super tight on our back window. Even though this is curved, I'm going to basically make this one giant 1/4 of a back window. So I'm going to pull this thing super tight across the top, super tight down the sides, and everything that's left behind is what we're going to shrink out. So I will start and lock it across the top, pulling nice and firm, trying to stretch any of that tension out and bring it out to the side here. So anything that was popping up fingers-wise here, hopefully is now coming out this side. And now I'm going to bring these fingers down and around here, so it'll make these ones bigger. Stretch this guy rather down the side. So again, we're trying to create a lot of tension in here. Now I'll go through this side, work down and around here. So now I have locked that 1/4 just like I would on the back window. Now it's a matter of just getting the water out. This one's got all kinds of fingers in here. I think the worst door that I've done fingers wise is like the 2006 Corvette body style. Those Corvettes are pretty rough. Lots of fingers in there. So my goal now is to get as much of this extra water out as I can. And get these fingers kind of going up and down. Any of them that kind of split into Y's are telling me basically they want to be split in half into 2 different fingers. So if there is any, I'll kind of separate them. Try not to run directly through them with here because you might crease it. But the more water we can get out, the better. Sometimes I'll just try to gently work up here. Take that water out and just get rid of that water bubble. If you shrink it too much, it'll pull itself back up, but hopefully it's pulling air instead of water too, so I can get that water out of there. Nobody wants that in there. It's harder to shrink with water. You gotta separate these guys, get all the water out that you can. Don't crease it, try and keep everything straight up and down. This guy's clearly got a curve here, so we're gonna bring him around. Straight up. Straight down. Water. Alright, so for now, let's start with this. I will start with some of the taller ones, and as we work them, they may want to start just split in half, so keep an eye on that. Don't try to run the heat all the way down to the bottom right now. It's just not going to work out well for you. I'm going to steal the heat gun from you real quick. Thank you. So I usually try to take these things about halfway down and see where I'm at. I'll stop, I'll push with the card. A lot of times doing that, they want to split in half. It's 2 smaller ones, which again is easier than shrinking 1 big one. So I'll kind of keep splitting these things up as I go. Don't try to take it all in one shot. Nice and toasty. One thing to keep in mind, again, anywhere where it's squeegeed down tight, you can sit here all day with the heat, you're not going to hurt anything. But anywhere where the film is loose, that heat gets anywhere near there, it's going to shrink it and curl it. So that comes in very important on the front edge over here, especially because it's got fingers over here. If I start getting too close with the heat, it's going to melt this really quickly. So use your card and block that heat with your card. Now when you come with your heat gun, you can shrink it over there. You're not touching that little edge at all. Okay. So I'll show you, you can pocket shrink these guys too. It's not that you can't do that. It's just riskier trying to do the bottom on these big ones first. So I like to start again about that far away with my heat. As soon as you put heat here and start to squiggle it a little bit with the heat, it's gonna run up. Don't chase it up. Don't worry about chasing it up to the top. Just kind of work your heat down. Eventually it'll stop growing on its way. It'll stop. Don't worry about chasing it. So put some heat here. Sometimes I like to shoot up, get about halfway down with the heat. Bring the card down, stop it, see where we're at. Kind of create that little bit of a Y shape. So we'll split this guy in half. Using your finger here and the card to kind of separate it. Now these two are easy to shrink, the small ones. Okay, if you hit it and it moves over, just going to keep moving it over. Split the two small guys there. Okay. Alright, let's pocket shrink the big one there. Let's take this guy down. You can tell there's a little extra water in that one. It took a lot longer for it to kind of shrink up. A little bit of juice in that guy. Still working on. Yeah, a lot of water in there. Get them up smaller and smaller and get rid of them. So I'm going to try to heat pocket shrink this guy. So I'm going to work the heat on this edge a little bit. See if we can get that to collapse some for us. So it did kind of curl that edge just a little bit on me, so I will have to go back and trim that. So again, that's why I say it's a little bit more dangerous doing that. If you did do that, I can run some heat through here. If you did collapse that edge. Take it down, but yeah, I'm gonna have to just trim that a little bit over there. Now again, if you don't have a ton of extra, you gotta trim stuff, you may have a little daylight showing at the bottom. When you install it, come back and trim that out. That's not gonna lay smooth if we don't. Okay, a little bit of heat. Almost done. Okay. So once I think I'm good, I'll do one last pass just straight across the bottom. Look for anything else that may pop up. Good for me. Okay. So this should fit technically on the inside without any fingers popping up. And the way that I ensure that is by pulling it as tight as I did. If we don't pull it tight, we end up with fingers every time. So again, that stretch, that nice tight stretch across there and down the sides, I don't want to say it's impossible for anything to show up, but the odds of anything showing up, even on this super curved big window here, are very minuscule that will have actual fingers. The only thing I'm concerned about now is this little edge here. So I'm going to trim this, because if I left this here, I'd absolutely get a little finger popping up just because of the damage right there. And there's maybe a little nick right here on that edge. I'll hit that too. But other than those edges right there, there's no fingers, there's no tension that should be in there that's going to want to pop up fingers if I squeegee it right. Because I pulled it super tight, so I ensure there's nothing left. If you just kind of like lazily squeegee it out, you're definitely going to get fingers in there for sure. Take a couple of little beads off here. Okay, so it should be good. Should fit just fine in there. All right. Okay.